Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you are listening to Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, Connie. You know, I'm disappointed I haven't heard that song more on Saturdays. Oklahoma's had a run to a tough spot, losing to Kansas, which is a pretty good team, by the way, and then losing at Stillwater last week to Jerry Briscoe's Oklahoma State Cowboys. It's been a rough 2 weekends for my Sooners. But, Conrad, we still love our teams. That's the funny part about college football. There's a magnet that draws us to it, win or lose. We're disappointed when we lose, obviously, but we certainly love it when we win, and I'm going to still support my team, and that's into that story. But anyway, I've had a hard time getting back to a game, but luckily enough, Oklahoma's like a lot of teams. They're on TV every week somewhere, some network, and if you stay in a hotel that is, normal, you can get ESPN2 or ESPN or Fox 2 or whatever, and it works out pretty well. So I haven't really missed a lot of games, but I can tell you it's a pain in the ass, and it's challenging to sit in a room by yourself and watch your team struggle.
Well, this weekend, I'm sure that you'll get the train back on the tracks because we've got Oklahoma hosting West Virginia. And that's the late game, I guess 6 o'clock game. Meanwhile, my Crimson Tide are going to be on the road to Kentucky for an 11 a.m. kickoff. Are you, what are you thinking, man? Michigan, Penn State. I think most people are circling that game this weekend. Michigan comes in ranked number 2. Penn State is number 9. They've got an 11 a.m. Central kickoff. What are you thinking? Michigan, Penn State? Who do you like?
Well, I don't know how much the distractions within the organization there in Michigan, how much that's going to affect the game, because it could have a major effect on it, because it affects the various members of the staff, coaches, trainers, and so forth. So there's a lot of distraction for Michigan. I guess I had an errant thought about the king floating through there. So I still think Michigan has got the best team, but I don't know how much they've been distracted with all this political bullshit and Harbaugh stuff or Harbaugh's non-stuff, whatever the hell it is. So, but I think Michigan wins, but I think it's going to be one hell of a game.
I'm actually pulling for Penn State in that one, just to be contrarian to Pop, which we still need to talk about. But I'm excited to see that game, Michigan, Penn State. I would actually go with Penn State on that one. I think JR's picking Michigan. We've also got
what's the spread?
Yeah, that's a great question. While I'm looking that up, what about Utah and Washington? Utah comes in at 13. Washington is 5. What say you?
Well, I've always liked the way that Utah plays. Their coach is this hard-nosed kind of a let's get past the bullshit, start playing football guy. But I really like the other team, talent-wise. The quarterback's a difference maker, and the deeper you get into a tournament or to an environment like a tournament, you have to start looking at certain areas of the team. And to me, the area you always start with is the quarterback. And Washington has a hell of a quarterback, and he's hot. So I'm thinking Washington wins that game in a close one, but if it went the other way, I would not be shocked.
9.5 points is the spread for Washington. Yeah. They're a 9.5 point favorite. Meanwhile, Michigan is a 5-point favorite. I'd take Penn State in the points, and I'd take Utah in the points. I'm going dogs on both of those.
It might not be a bad philosophy, quite frankly, because you're getting toward the end of the year where immediacy and urgency becomes even more at play. And I think that's kind of what we have here this weekend, is that we have two teams that have a whole hell of a lot more to gain by winning than they do by even thinking about losing. So I'm a big fan of both these. These two games are good games.
Yeah.
But I think Washington, because of the quarterback, seems to me to be the favorite in my mind. And what was the other game? We talked
about Penn State and Michigan, and then Utah and Washington. And I also want to get your take on Tennessee and Missouri. I'm an SEC guy. This is going to be the 2:30 CBS game here in Alabama. Yeah. We're going to be in Missouri. So Missouri's hosting, Tennessee's coming to town. And, believe it or not, Tennessee is a 1-point favorite.
Yeah.
I'm going dogs again. I think Missouri can beat Tennessee. What do you think?
I think they can beat them, especially considering they're playing at home, right?
Yeah.
The coach in Missouri apparently is doing a hell of a job. I can't remember his name. That's how memorable he is. He's got a kind of a strange name, not an everyday. His name's not Smith or Jones, but nonetheless, whoever his name is doing a great job. I'm more familiar with Tennessee's coach because Josh Heupel played at OU, and I know him from his time at Oklahoma. It was during his early run. Just Bob Stoops had just gotten there, and they're completely rebuilding the team, and it was just an amazing time of growth for the Sooners, culminating in a national championship in 2000. And Josh was the quarterback of that team, left-hander, good arm. They got him. Mike Leach, the late Mike Leach, recruited Josh Heupel out of junior college. So Heupel was a JUCO and left-handed and slow, but he worked the offense perfectly. He had so much to do with the formation of with Leach, who's a genius, but Josh fit right into that think tank, and I think we're seeing that today because he's a good coach and he does a good job. I mean, he's a good strategist. I don't know if they have the talent to beat Missouri at Missouri. That's my question. Missouri's finally getting a chance to sit at the head table, so to speak. Prime time, there's their prime game. And before Josh got back there, they didn't have a lot of prime time games. So that should affect the kids in a positive way. So I'm thinking it's going to be a hell of a game, really a close game. If it's me, I hope Tennessee wins because I'm a Heupel guy. And, of course, OU's going to be going into the SEC sooner than later.
You know what's fun is, the head coach of Tennessee is obviously a guy who played for the Oklahoma Sooners, but the head coach of Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz, is from Norman, Oklahoma.
Is he really?
So how about that? A little battle of the Okies here.
I didn't know that, Conrad.
Yeah. Our, the last game I want to mention and bring up to you, number 1, Georgia is going to be playing Ole Miss, and they're playing it in Athens. Georgia is a 10.5-point favorite. I am a big Lane Kiffin fan. I love that he likes to keep it stirred up and he doesn't seem to take it too seriously. He gets the fun in football, and I'm excited to see what he can do against Georgia because I'm not convinced Georgia's the best team in football. And anytime you play Lane Kiffin, you better bring your A game. This is a team that has done pretty doggone well on their own this year. 10.5 seems like a lot. I, once again, would take the underdog. What say you?
I think Lane is too pretty to be a head coach. He's a handsome man. He's kind of like Dave Silva in his own way. Yeah. And I'll probably regret I said that.
Ole Miss, by the way, has one loss. It's against Alabama. So let's not sleep on Ole Miss too much.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not at all. And he's an opportunistic son of a gun. Mm-hmm. He's very ambitious, is Lane Kiffin. Would you not agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Very ambitious. What more to make aware that you're ambitious by beating Alabama?
Yes, well said.
Because that would mean more to him because of the Saban connection and the fact that he's playing Alabama.
Yes.
So I don't think Alabama loses at home. But I do think that the chance is there, and I believe it'll be a fun game to watch because I think Lane will pull out all the stops. And if you're Nick Saban and his staff, you're preparing for some things that you may not be used to seeing every week.
Well, now, hang on now. Georgia is playing Ole Miss.
Georgia. I meant Georgia.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Either way, though, I think we agree it's going to be an uphill battle, but I think they could pull it off. 10.5 is an awful lot of points. So hypothetically, if I was a betting man, once again, I'd go with the underdog.
Take the points.
Yeah, why not?
Take the points because here's the other thing about taking the points. If you're a team, if they score first, look at where you are. Let's say that Lane is what did you say was 10.5?
Yep. 10.5 point dog.
So they score a touchdown first. They score first. Let's say it's a TD. All of a sudden, they're 17.5 points. Right? Now just do the math.
Yeah.
They kick a field goal. Now it's 20 in your favor. So I kind of like the points in this situation because I don't think that Alabama, or excuse me, I got Alabama in my mind today. Georgia. I don't think that
Georgia.
We're the Bulldogs. I mean, they're a better team, but I'm not so sure how this goes. So my point is, starting out quick and scoring for the underdog is a big deal.
Yes.
In any college game you bet on.
Yes. So be sure to check back next week and let's see how our picks were. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. This is a fun time of year to be a football fan. Who are you keeping up with besides the Jags over in the pros this year, Jim?
You know what, Conrad, I've become a fan of. I know this probably sounds stupid, but because I lived in Norman for so long and I was around the program on I don't want to say a daily basis, that'd be a misnomer, but certainly a weekly basis. And I hung out with the coaches, and therefore you got to say hello and begin a relationship with a lot of the players. And going back over all the years that I've been affiliated with the program, it's been a pretty auspicious group, starting in 2000 with Coach Stoops' national championship team. So, and then Bob and I are friends, and, we have a beer together and all these things, and that's very normal. So, I follow, to answer your question, the Sooner alumni.
Yeah.
It just makes sense to me. So in other words, I'm a friend of, Trent Williams, the left tackle for the 49ers. He and I are buddies. We've been buddies forever. He's been my friend. All this stuff has been great. And so I'm giving you an example. How do I do Jacksonville and San Francisco?
Right.
Well, Jacksonville's where I live and my boss owns the team.
Yeah.
So I ain't going to jump on Jacksonville too heavy, obviously, but seeing the San Francisco team win wouldn't break my heart because one of my best friends is playing on the team and earning a living there.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just hard. But here's the thing it does. It creates an emotional investment into the game for me, even more so than it normally would. It's not like, the Jags playing the Ravens or somebody that I don't have an emotional attachment to. I used to have one with the Ravens, but I don't any longer. So it's a funny thing, man. I enjoy that's how I relate. That's how I relate to the teams. When, Oklahoma, anytime the Eagles play, there's Hurts. He's one of our quarterbacks.
Yep.
This week, I know that, and I don't know how good he's going to do. I'm concerned about his leg and his health. Is our kid from Arizona, the number one draft pick. I got him having a mind part quarterback former quarterback for Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray's going to start this weekend. So I'll be watching, paying attention to the Arizona game of all things. So it's a Sooner-based thing for me, and it just works better. That's how I perceive it. It's easy to keep up with. And so, therefore, about any game on the NFL, Connie, one of my guys is playing. It's kind of like Alabama. If you want to just follow Alabama players, you got one of pretty much every game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's what I do. I guess my family, my household has found itself becoming accidental Eagles fans. Megan saw that Kelsey documentary, absolutely loved it. And of course, I'm not mad that Julio Jones and Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts are all there. So
yeah,
it's fun to watch, some of these.
How much of the Oklahoma experience do you acknowledge for Jalen Hurts?
25% of it, the 1 year he was there.
Is that what you do?
Well, I'm just saying, yes, I know he played there.
So you're more biased for the Alabama side of his growth than you are the Oklahoma side of his growth.
Yeah. I don't care what he did at Oklahoma, respectfully.
There you go. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the way he handled the whole Tua situation. That was a unenviable spot. And I think it showed a lot about the content of his character. Right. And he was even the underdog going into the draft, and he's proved everybody wrong and got a big contract to prove it. And, That's what a friend of mine always says. It's all about the 2 C's, man, cash and creative. And,
right.
Folks have become pretty creative about separating from your cash, these gimmick subscriptions where people are saying,
I hate those, man. I hate those with a passion. And we're losing so much money going forward, Conrad, that you're going to talk about right now, and unnecessarily. It's absolutely, we're throwing money away unnecessarily because we're not paying attention. Rocket Money can take care of that issue.
That's exactly right. You see, Rocket Money is an application that I absolutely love. It's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. They monitor your spending and they help you lower your bills all in one place. And I know what you're thinking. Well, I don't have any unnecessary subscriptions. Man, I thought the same thing.
Oh, yes, you do.
That's it. You sign up for stuff and you kind of forget about it. I signed up for DAZN to watch one fight, never watched it again, kept paying every month. My wife and I paid for the same streaming service, but we watched TV together. We needed one account, not 2. Here's the reality. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about because it's too easy to subscribe to a free trial for something and then completely forget about it. And that's why we're such big fans of Rocket Money, because you're going to be able to save a boatload of cash. And I know what you're thinking. Well, how much could this even be? Because see, most people think they're paying only like $80 a month in subscriptions. In reality, it's more like $200. Rocket Money can easily cancel the ones you don't want anymore or don't use anymore with just the press of a single button. No more long hold times or annoying emails back and forth with customer service. Rocket Money does it all for you. Oh, and hey, check this out. Rocket Money can even negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and dude, Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money will also monitor all your expenses in one place, recommend custom budgets based on your past spending, and they'll even send you notifications when you've reached your spending limits. With over 5 million users and counting, Rocket Money has helped save its customers an average of $720 a year. That's more than $1 billion in total savings so far. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/JR. That's rocketmoney.com/JR, rocketmoney.com/JR.
Good stuff, man. Save yourself some money. It's sitting there. It's waiting on you to retrieve it. Save its life. Save your own cash. It's really simple.
There you go.
Really simple.
Jim, we haven't touched base and talked about current stuff in a little bit. I think we should mention that, hey, since we've sat down and recorded, there's big news out there.
Yeah.
Ric Flair is a part of AEW as a part of the Woo Energy Drink campaign. I guess that's going to begin alongside AEW. Maybe the announcers will have it at their desk and it'll be at the, post-fight press conferences and things like that on the big pay-per-views. And either way though, Woo Energy, Ric Flair, AEW, a lot of people didn't have this on their bingo card, but it's good timing, with Sting having his last match around the corner. What'd you think of this announcement that the Nature Boy is in AEW?
Well, I'm glad he's there. He'll be fun to be around, and he's always entertaining. There's only one Nate, and he's it. And Tony Khan's got him. So I was pleasantly surprised that Rick signed. I wasn't sure what he was going to do because I really believe, and this is going to sound negative, and I don't want to sound negative, that his wrestling days are essentially over.
Yeah.
He's 70-something. I'm 70-something. I get it. Which I got some news on that coming up here in a second or two.
Yes.
But I'm glad he's with us. He's you can't get a lifetime talent daily. You just can't. They're not out there. They're not available. And so I'm glad that for Rick's sake that he's got a good sponsor, a good backup guy. Tony Khan's a huge Ric Flair fan, and who isn't? So pleasantly surprised that he's with us. Don't look for any matches out of him, but I think that he can contribute more than the vast majority of the populace in his world in his vocation, and never wrestle. That's just me. He's a star. Ric Flair is a star, and when he's on your TV, he brightens that star.
Yeah, I don't see him wrestling either, but it is big news anytime you do something with the Nature Boy, and I think we're both glad that he's now a part of AEW. And of course, We also saw the big announcement. AEW is going to be putting tickets on sale for All In 3, I suppose. The return.
Well, that's ambitious, isn't it?
To Wembley Stadium, man. My gosh, what a high water mark last year. The pressure's going to be on. Tickets are going to be on sale at the end of the month, or the pre-sale starts at the end of the month. You can sign up right now at AEWTIX.com. And before you know it, man, we're going to have another big pay-per-view, Full Gear. AEW going to the West Coast. That ought to be a lot of fun over at the Kia Forum. But I think right now we should talk about perhaps the biggest, most personal news to us here on the show is what's going on with you right now, JR, and what the future holds for good old JR and the voice of wrestling.
Well, I'm going to take some time off starting this week. I'm not going to be where the hell are we? This for Collision this week, wherever we are.
Oakland, I think.
Oh, I think you're right. That's a good show to miss, I guess, because I like Oakland. Great wrestling town. Patterson always had great stories about the Bay Area and stuff like that, so it's good. But my doctor believes that if I take a few weeks off, I'm not sure how many, we'll see. It's got to heal. That being off an airplane for a few weeks would be good for my leg to heal. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a few weeks off. Every Tuesday, I go to the doctor, wound doctor, and he scrapes my wound, gets rid of all the dead tissue, which is not a fun thing. They do it with a scalpel and scalpel, or whatever it's called. And they just slice off all the bad stuff. So that's what I do on Tuesdays. If we get down to where we're slicing off less than we're leaving, then we win. So it's really that simple. So I'm not going to be on TV for a while until I can navigate the waters a little bit, get in that deep water. And hey, look, I love what I'm doing. We have a unique roster. There's so many guys that we need to help as much as possible get over. But that goes for any wrestling TV show. That's their objective. You have one goal when you're on television doing pro wrestling: get the talent over. Simple as that. End of story. And so I love doing that. I love that role. I love helping these young kids who ask questions, or did you watch my match, or would you watch my match, or what do you think about this? How is this for a transition spot? What do you think of the finish? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to take some time off to get my leg to heal. And, folks have been following me, Conrad, God dang, I've been suffering with this shit for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
It's how much good barbecue can a country boy eat?
Right.
So somewhere along the way, man, I gotta turn the corner and get better. And I'm not in any great deal of pain, except when I get to the city I'm flying to, my leg swells up like a cantaloupe, and it hurts like hell. So I want to try to not travel, see how that affects me, and go from there. So I'll be missing for a couple of weeks. I'll keep everybody posted here. You'll find out first right here. But I appreciate everybody's concern. I've developed since Jan's been passed away since 2007.
17.
I've developed 17. I mean,
yeah. God
damn. See there. Somebody on the internet will pick that up because it's important to have all these dates correct for these geniuses.
Sorry.
So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And, but I'm feeling good. I feel strong. I feel motivated. I feel like I'm lucky that I'm working for TK, because he's the one that brought up the fact that, we want you healthy for the long run. And so, he's been taking very good care of me. For a young guy like that to have the concern, and maybe it's because he has parents that are the same basic age as me. I don't know. You understand it better when you're in it, when you're dealing with it.
Yeah.
And so he's been dealing with it very well. And I really do appreciate what he's doing for me, and that he's paying attention. That's really, really important. And I'm not concerned about finishes or booking, or this guy should have worked with this guy. This guy should, I ain't going there. I'm going to call when I get back in the saddle, and you can bet your ass I'll be back in the saddle. I'm going to do what I need to do to help get these young kids over. This is really a fun roster, Conrad, to be around. They're like fans. and they are fans, and they're living their dreams.
Yes.
And when you plug into that and take yourself out of it and the dirt, oh my God, the dirt and all the fucking gossip and all that stuff, you look at it in a whole different way. And that's how I'm looking at it today, is that I'm just loving what we do. Would I improve? Look, anybody can improve creative in hindsight.
Right.
Hindsight's really easy, man.
Yes.
When you're writing fiction. So, but when you're not, it's easy to book if something hasn't happened. So anyway, it gets crazy, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'll be fine. I'll be on Twitter. I'll be responding to people when I can. And, we're getting ready to launch our book sooner than later. I got to get on top of that situation. I actually need a helper. I need an assistant to help me with all the graphics. I need a Dave Silva. That's what I need.
I know a Dave Silva.
Yeah. Because I believe that Dave Silva, and I'm not bullshitting about this, with all his abilities, is artistically, graphically, and things like that, to get on Twitter and Facebook and things, to remind people that we have a book. Look, we got a marketing staff of one.
Right.
You know how that goes, Conrad.
Oh, yeah.
You're a one-man band more often than not, and I know that Dave Silva's made a positive difference in what you do.
Absolutely.
So if I get me a Dave Silva, or I can borrow yours every now and then, then I'll be a whole hell of a lot better off. But the book's going to be it's going to be interesting. We have a cover, and we have a name. Business is picking up, and the cover's pretty cool. And I got to get that. See, I need a Dave.
We got plenty of Daves. We'll square you away. How about that?
Thank you so much. That's just, you don't know how much a relief that is.
Dude, you've never asked for a Dave. I got Daves on deck. I got so many. I even thought about having an LLC called Too Many Daves LLC. I got so many Daves. No problem.
Well, let's share them.
Yeah, no problem. Community Daves. That's what we all
I'll
like.
I'll get you a book.
Well, I'll tell you what we need. We need to sit down with the book. And we also need to sit down with some mood, because I know this is one of your favorite new sponsors here on the program. I am so excited to talk about a new opportunity to chill out, relax, calm down, relieve some soreness, sleep easier. I'm talking about mood. I know you're excited to try it. I have been absolutely loving it. My wife is loving it. I have to admit, she was a little skeptical at first. But let me explain. Mood is known for their federally legal THC, but now they're adding their most potent product yet to the lineup, introducing the hemp-based THCA flower, the future of legal THC. You can try it along with all of Mood's other amazing offerings like Delta 8 flower, gummies, vape cartridges, and more. And for a limited time, Mood is giving our listeners a free gram of THCA flower.
What?
And 20% off your first order. Just visit hellomood.com and use our code JR. And I got to tell you, man, they sent so many gummies to my house. I was so excited to try it. My wife was even more excited. Uh-oh. She is sleeping better than ever. It made a huge difference. She was up and down a few times a night. She's been training to be a fitness model, Jim, and she's just overdone it. She's been training like the competition is next week, and it's like 6 months from now, and it was like a year out when she started. So she's just got everything dialed in, but she's probably overworked herself. So she's just miserable and not sleeping well until Mood came. Man, she immediately felt the difference. Went to bed early, slept late. It was wonderful. Woke up totally refreshed. It was a game changer. And she had tried all the other over-the-counter stuff down at the corner store they could get. But this is the only thing that really checked the box. And I like it because, well, who doesn't like THC and the way that makes you feel? The latest and most potent breakthrough in the world of legal cannabis is THCA flower. Since THCA converts into THC when you heat it, you get access to that classic feel that, chocolate cake, if you will. And Mood has 10 high-inducing strains, the most potent they've ever offered. And by the way, it's all kinds of other products too. You've heard me talk about the gummies. They've got classic flower. They've got convenient pre-rolls and so much more. However you take THC, Mood has you covered. It's great for beginners like me. It's great for old veterans like JR. You'll absolutely love it. And there's different strains for specific moods. Maybe you want euphoria. Maybe you want to be energized. Maybe you want to be creative. Maybe you want to chill out. I recommend Mood. You see, what Mood has done is they've put an end to the guessing games with federally legal forms of THC that have been extracted from hemp plants. All their products are regularly third-party tested by the Drug Enforcement Agency registered labs, and they're sourced from small family farms and then grown organically. Try Mood's new THCA flower today. And for 20% off your first order and a free gram of THCA flower, go to HelloMood.com and use our promo code JR. That's HelloMood.com. And our promo code JR will hook you up with 20% off your order and a free gram of THCA flower. Jim, can you believe this is a real thing? Mood has it hooked up.
It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. I'm very happy about it. I hope folks try it responsibly.
Yes.
Intelligently. If you do that and follow the instructions, you'll be cool.
Yes.
I believe. And I'm waiting on my samples. So Dave Silva, see, you got a Dave Silva. He'll hear me say that, and I will guarantee you within a few weeks, few days, even better, I'll have some samples. And by speaking of cannabis, my cannabis store, JR's Black Hat Farms, is going to be opening soon. We just got cleared, I think it was yesterday, passed the last test on something. You would not believe how much political imaginations that you got to go through. I'm sure you can, but it's unbelievable. So my little store will open in Oklahoma soon, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm a big believer in the concept. I believe, when I was hurting and sick and had health issues, I couldn't sleep, and I knew that something like an Ambien, stronger, was not for me. I didn't need to be unconscious. So anyhow, I'm a big believer in responsibly using the cannabis for medicinal purposes, and you just relax. It's just a good thing, man. So Mood is, I'm glad they're with us. Hope you try it, folks. You got a chance to save some money, and then as soon as Dave Silva gets me my samples, I'll tell you how it works.
That's HelloMood.com. Use the promo code JR. You'll get 20% off your order and a free gram of THCA flower. And as JR says, federally legal. Come on now. How about that? So Jim, let's put a button on our AEW conversation. Listen, everything we say here is going to be quoted and misquoted and click here and drag there and all that you say. But, I think the natural follow-up question is, what does this mean for JR in the future of AEW? Are you sticking around AEW? Is this the end of your contract? I know we alluded to that a while back, and we still get questions about that on social media. What is next for you with AEW?
Well, I have a contract that's in place. I intend to honor it. It's still got a few months left, and Tony Khan has indicated to me as early as this week, at least to my representative, Barry Bloom, that he'd like for me to stay.
All right.
I'm not looking to go anywhere. It's just, I need to heal.
Yes.
And that's all. I really, simplistically, is that my leg needs to heal. And the good news is that the wound is getting much better. And so I am healing. So that's the story. I just got to get better. And it's not a matter of pain tolerance. The pain comes when I get to the city I'm flying to. Right. Flying is the enemy right now. So if I can heal a little bit more, then flying becomes less of an issue. And with this job, I can't do it without flying. So flying is a necessary evil, if you want to use that term. And that's kind of how I'm approaching it. So I have no plans on leaving AEW. I like working for Tony. Tony's been good to me. He's taken great care of me. And, we just have a very unique relationship. I'm not high maintenance.
Right.
Even with a bad leg and stuff, I don't want to be high maintenance. I've managed high maintenance when I was in charge of talent for WWE. I understand the mindset of what you got to deal with when you're dealing with a talent that can't or isn't 100%. And I'm not 100% right now. but I will be enough to go do my job. And with my ego as it is, people are going to say, well, here it comes. I'm not going to let somebody be better than me.
There we go.
At least in my view. I worked too many years to build a work relationship with our audience, an audience that I love and that love me. And it's very emotional for me to talk about that. But I'm a big believer that things are going to get better.
Yes.
And that my run, my God, Conrad, I'm 71 years old. I'm not like ready to be turned out to pasture.
Right.
Now, for a young guy listening to this, they're going to say, Jesus Christ, that's old. Well, hey, hopefully you're going to find out someday how old that is. So that's how I look at that deal, man. I'm blessed to be alive. We all are. Count your blessings. Tomorrow's not guaranteed, you know. So anyway, it's all good. So JR and Tony Khan are going to do business together for the foreseeable future. And I want to be a part of this company. We got challenges. You know, we're a new company trying to build an audience and trying to make sure the audience can find us and so forth, to get new stars over, to get some people hot. And so I want to be a part of that. And my plans are to be a part of that.
Well said. I'm excited that you're going to be sticking around, and I know our audience will be as well. And we're glad you guys are sticking around because we're revisiting something that was pretty epic. 25 years ago, it was the 1998 Survivor Series, an incredible show. A lot of people think this is Vince Russo's magnum opus, his best show he ever did. And if you go back and you watch this show start to finish, it really is a wonderful story. So let's get right back into it. Judgment Day 1998 is the most recent pay-per-view. It ends with Steve Austin double counting down The Undertaker and Kane in their match for the vacant world title. And the show would end with Vince McMahon firing Austin and the title staying vacant. And it would set the stage for a one-night tournament at the Survivor Series. So let's just talk about that for a minute. I know you're obviously a big traditional sports fan. We spent the first 30 minutes of the show talking about football. What do you think of the tournament concept in wrestling?
I like it. Basically, I like it because it has a logical beginning, middle, and an end. It provides a prize for the successor. And so for that reason, I like those tournaments because that's what it leads to. Whether it's a single elimination or whatever it may be, the eventuality is that you're going to have a winner. And fans pay to see winners. Football fans pay to see winners. So I like the basic concept of it, and knowing that you're going to invest money in a show that's going to give you a winner, and it's a big prize, the championship. I thought was good.
What do you think of the old Survivor Series format? Teams of 5 strive to survive. That was obviously the original idea. It has evolved every now and again. It'll pop back up. Of course, we know what WWE's planning right now is War Games, the first War Games on the main roster. It's pretty cool that Cody Rhodes is going to be a part of the match that his dad created. But the actual OG concept of the Survivor Series, 10-man tags, what do you think of that?
Well, it's great if you got the depth, the talent depth to have 10 guys over enough to make people want to see them beat each other up. That's hard. Think about that. 10, you got to get 10 guys over. At a minimum, and hopefully that symmetry and that chemistry is enough to entice buys. It's challenging, but it does market well. It looks good on a billboard, so to speak. It looks good on a graphic, shall we say? So I don't have a problem with it, but it is challenging for a booker to get 10 guys hot for that old concept. The old concept worked because the concept was different and new and fresh. And then it got more challenging as time went on to get 10 guys hot. And that's kind of my story on that deal.
One of the things we should mention is the night after the pay-per-view when they're announcing this big tournament and getting everything rolling in that direction. It has one of the more infamous skits in Monday Night Raw history. First, we should mention the main event. Meltzer would be very critical. It was a rematch, Kane and The Undertaker in a casket match. He said it was a non-finish and generally one of the worst episodes of Raw in a long time. Wow. But maybe what people remember most about this show is where Steve Austin is going to hold Vince McMahon hostage and tease that he's going to kill him before getting him down in the middle of the ring and pulling the trigger. And then the big bang 316 flag rolls out and Vince pees his pants. So it is a little odd in hindsight when you think back that 13,000 people or whatever it was in the arena that night were cheering for Vince McMahon to be executed in the middle of the ring. Yeah. But still, what'd you think of the gun and the bang 316 spot? You're a wrestling traditionalist, if you will. Yeah. There hadn't been a lot of gun spots in wrestling over the years. What'd you think of this one?
I'm not big on the guns, not big on religion, not big on politics. Don't need them in my wrestling show. It's just me. So was it creative? Yeah, it was creative, and it played well, I guess, for what it was supposed to be on TV. But I'm not a big fan of that. It didn't, pun intended, trip my trigger. See what I did there, Conrad?
I did. Look at you. That's why you make the big bucks.
Exactly.
It is a huge success though. Monday Night Raw is going to win for the 5th straight week here. This is really when the Monday Night Wars are getting turned up. 1998. Of course, 96 was pretty firmly Nitro. 97 was all Nitro. But by April of 98, this Mr. McMahon Stone Cold feud started to pick up some steam. And now we're back and forth. But this represents 5 straight wins. Raw did a 5.01 rating and a 7.33 share. Nitro would do a 4.36 rating. And it's a big deal because WCW is building towards their big Halloween Havoc show. And Eric Bischoff has said that in his mind, that was the equivalent of the WrestleMania for WCW. That was their big tentpole event. So if you're able to beat them as they're building towards their WrestleMania, that's a pretty big deal. And the overrun of these two shows do a combined 11.27 rating and an 18.2 share. So you would have Austin and Vince in the ring on Monday Night Raw. Nitro would have Sting wrestling Bret Hart. That's 8.4 million homes, around 12 million viewers. This is a high watermark for wrestling audiences, is it not?
Oh yeah. The numbers speak for themselves. So just do the math. And it was a simple situation. Why did it draw? Because both companies had something that they were selling hard and that the audience wanted to see. And it's still that way. When you find a hot button, a talent that you can get hot, all of a sudden the perception changes. It's the same product. It's still pro wrestling, but the individuals performing their tasks are just, they're in marriages that they can survive in and they have good chemistry with. So the formula is the same. It's putting guys on TV that are quote unquote over or that you think are over and take it from there.
It really is a special time for Monday Night Raw. There's so much happening here. The rest of the show would see China arrested, which I know what you're thinking. Wait, if they can arrest China, how can they not arrest the guy with a gun holding the owner hostage? Don't worry about that. The Undertaker would also admit to being an arsonist who killed his own parents and maimed his little brother. I guess this is the twist, the turn, if you will. Undertaker turning heel and then aligning with Paul Bearer. That's hard to follow for me.
Yeah. Well, you just weren't ready for the Undertaker to be a heel, and neither was I.
Right.
We fell in love with that character and we didn't want to fall out of love with the Undertaker, but we were being given every reason to do so. So, it was a interesting time. You can see these characters, these main long-term characters, how they're evolving before our very eyes. I mean, who would have thought Undertaker was going to align with that creepy Paul Bearer? Look at that smile if you're watching on YouTube.
That Paul Bearer smile is unbelievable.
He was a perfect heel. He's like a lot of those great heels I work with, Heenan, Cornette, others that were so easy in their character to dislike. And that's exactly, as a booker, what you're looking for in a talent.
Talk to me a little bit about the contradiction, because that's what really bothered me about this is for over a year at that point, we had seen The Undertaker not wanting Paul Bearer to tell the secret and feeling guilty, and he's alive, and all this. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it feels a little contradictory, but hey, let's suspend our disbelief. Let's have a little fun. This same episode of Monday Night Raw is where we see Mick Foley interacting with Vince McMahon a lot. He's going to go into Vince's office for a slumber party. He's going to try to play Twister. These guys playing off of each other, like there was just magic in them. It felt like more freestyling. I'm sure they had a little bit of structure, but those guys just improvising together was just money for me.
Yeah, it was mostly improv. It was mostly spontaneous interaction. And it says a couple of things. It says, of course, that Vince McMahon was a very much underrated on-camera guy. He could make a scene, whether it be the bedpan McMahon or whatever, effective. He was good. And we saw that first with Austin because the Mr. McMahon character continued to evolve. We also saw that Mick Foley was equally as good in his opportunities to ad lib on camera. So we were lucky there. We got two of the best talkers in that room, shall we say, than the business has seen in years and years. And they just had great chemistry, and it worked out really well for us. Russo had enough talent to see that if you want these guys to be successful, you put them in the situations that they are best suited to perform within. And that's what we found with Vince and Mick.
We know that this is also going to be the show where we see Deborah debut with Jeff Jarrett. What's the story on how Deborah wound up in the WWF? I mean, when we most recently saw her, she was hanging around Mongo on Nitro. Now she's going to be joining the WWF roster. How does she wind up coming onto the roster? And what'd you think of the pairing of her with Double J?
Well, I think that, wasn't Deborah seeing Steve Austin?
I'm not sure if they were seeing before or after. That's why I kind of asked.
Well, I kind of can tell you that I would suggest that, they may have been seeing each other before she debuted on television.
And that made it a no-brainer to sign her.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't like she had a bad look.
No. And
she's been on television. And so I think that the Austin relationship didn't hurt her.
Right.
Obviously. So, and she added to the show. I mean, she was a beautiful woman, unique personality. She had beautiful Alabama drawl. She always looked great, and she was low maintenance. She wasn't high maintenance at all. She was good to be around. So, and if it made Austin happy as a decent manager, I'm all for that because he was the guy.
No doubt.
Let's don't forget about him. So, anyway, and it's the same thing you have on the other side of the issue. What happens when they fall out of love?
Right.
So you got to deal with that. So, and that's just a fact of things. It's just life. You want your star to be happy as best you can make him.
Let's talk about, the man they call Vader. He's going to finish up with the company October 25th. His last show is at Madison Square Garden, and Meltzer would report this. Vader actually had a clause in his contract requiring him to stay below 350. And even though he made the weight at the last weigh-in, he apparently crash dieted to make it. McMahon wanted him down to 320, and he was told he'd get a big push if he got that low, but it was never put in writing. And he was 346 at the weigh-in with no push coming. What do you remember about Vader and this contract where there was a clause, I guess, about his weight? And then when you realized it's not working out, he's got to move on. I mean, I know you were a big part and a big fan of what he was doing over in WCW. It felt like he was off to the right start and had some good trajectory going. But at this point, we're almost 2 years removed from where he was at the top of the cards. What was it that didn't work about Vader in the WWF? Was it a weight thing? Okay.
Commitment, Conrad, commitment. It's really simple. He was committed enough to his craft to lose some weight, and he was making big money. The average Joe like me that's out there listening, and watching our show today, which we appreciate, can relate. So you're saying to me, JR, that I got to lose 20 pounds. That's kind of where we were. I don't remember how much. It wasn't a lot. It was less than you see advertised on TV commercials about weight loss. It was realistic. It was attainable, but it took commitment.
Right.
And he didn't have the commitment to lose weight and to watch his diet. You know, I told the story before about sending Yokozuna and Vader, I believe, to the Duke Weight Loss Center and Duke University, and then they gained weight on a weekly weigh-in. How the hell do you gain weight in a weight loss clinic? Well, you sneak out of the building late at night and go get chicken, as was on tape. A security tape.
Wait, a security tape caught them getting chicken?
Well, they didn't go to the KFC with them, but they saw them leave the building.
Wow.
So where's the commitment?
Surveillance footage for midnight snacking.
Well, it was just security. It's just security camera. It wasn't anything that we put in place to let's catch them doing this.
Right.
This would be good dirt. You know, come on, Conrad. All it was a security camera. Where were you guys going at 12:30 or whatever time it was? And so it just kind of spit in the face of the company. At least it did in my view. It showed no respect, not enough respect for the business. You know, and Yoko's weight loss was more drastic because he had more to lose, not financially and all that. Well, he may have. But certainly Vader's was attainable.
Yeah.
And Leon just didn't feel like at that stage of his career, he had earned all the accolades. He had great successes, and he had. I was a big advocate of his, huge advocate. The match he had with Stan Hansen in Japan sold me, where Vader's eye was all anti-goggling, you know, that famous tape. And if you haven't seen that tape, go find it, folks. It's pretty entertaining. But Stan and Leon beat the living shit out of each other for real. And when I saw that, I'm thinking, man, like we could bring this act to the United States and draw money. I loved it. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but the stiffness and the believability,
yes,
was simply beyond compare. Nothing like that was on television at that time. And I was trying to find things that weren't on television at that time that might draw a house and might draw interest, ratings, big thing.
Is Vader, you can hear the love and respect and appreciation you had for Vader, but you can also hear in your voice the frustration. Was this one of the bigger disappointments you had in the WWF? Because it feels like you were really pulling for Leon.
Yeah, I was, to be honest with you. You know, I had a good relationship with Leon. When Leon's son, great kid. He's really a great kid. Jesse White. He was the number one center in high school football his senior year, and he committed to UCLA. And after that, Leon called me and said, you know, you think Oklahoma would have any interest in my boy? I said, well, I thought I read where he committed. He said, well, he did, but he's still, it's a light commit. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I can make arrangements to get, to see the right people. In other words, the head coach and the offensive line coach, et cetera. And I'll pick you up at the airport and bring you out, but you got to, you pay for your way, and I'll make all the arrangements. And I did. So I picked him up at the airport and took him to Norman. And of course, I've been a big OU mark, as I self-admitted. And they came down and spent the weekend, went to a game, and Jesse signed. He decommitted from UCLA and he signed with Oklahoma. Only problem was he got hurt in the spring, bad back, and so it messed him up. But he was a monster. And then we signed him to wrestle for a while. He just couldn't get healthy. And sometimes it's that way. Your body say, nope, we're not doing this. Great kid, though. I loved him. I still do.
Heck of a nice guy.
But I got my point. So my point is, Leon became a personal project. I developed a relationship with Leon that I don't regret. I love the big fella. Heartbroken when he passed. He was like a big child, big old teddy bear. And so I miss him. I do miss him. Guys like him and Dr. Death just don't come along in your life. To know somebody that are that athletic and that big and strong, and they've been blessed with all these athletic physical skills, it's an honor. It's an honor for me to be in this position, or to have been in that position.
So that's going to be the end of Vader in the WWF. It's also reported that Droz had signed a contract extension. There's not really much of a follow-up on Bart Gunn's victory at Brawl for All. And that begins some speculation in the Observer about, what, if anything, are we going to do with Bart Gunn? Why do you think on the other side, when we've got all these creative ideas for all these different talent and all these different outside of the box ideas, why do you think Russo was never able to nail anything for Bart Gunn?
I don't think Russo and Bart just clicked. Maybe that was it. They just didn't click. Maybe Russo didn't see the creative upside for Bart Gunn that others did. I know that we could have got a lot more out of Bart Gunn than we did.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I don't have all the answers to that conundrum, but he was underutilized. But it also shows you what the company thought of the Brawl for All. They didn't care. Once it was over and Bart got destroyed by Butterbean, the Brawl for All concept passed away. And unfortunately, Bart was a victim of that. He didn't deserve the way that ended. I think we could have got more out of him. I don't know if it had been a main event babyface or not, but he certainly had some mileage that we didn't seek and we didn't retrieve.
What else is interesting to me is when you think about all the other crazy over the top ideas, like Tiger Ali Singh roasting weenies. They had a plant in the crowd that night, the Kielbasa Queen from the Howard Stern show. And she, takes care of the weenies, and Singh gives her $500, and Godfather comes to the ring and explains that she was actually one of his hoes and the money belongs to him. So this becomes a sloppy brawl. Godfather's going to slam Tiger Ali's second Babu. We got people, we got ladies from the Howard Stern show deep throat and kielbasas on Monday Night Raw here.
Yeah. Do you ask if I liked it? No, I didn't like it. It wasn't into my demo. I didn't think so. So no, I didn't like that much. And I know that some of my fans that are younger now don't even know what we're talking about. So, and those that do, I apologize. It had no place in pro wrestling. And I know that pro wrestling is pro wrestling. We do crazy things and that's what it's all about. No, it really isn't. That's what it became about. And this is a key area to where on a Monday Night Raw, where you're seeing one of the greater examples of Russo's creativity, whether you like it or you don't like it, because it was throughout the show. And how he got Vince to buy into the Kielbasa thing and all that. He's a hell of a salesman. That's all I can say. Hell of a salesman.
Well, there's no doubt about that. What's your favorite Lou Thesz Kielbasa spot?
Yeah, right.
Hey, we're talking about crazy things that have happened in wrestling. It made the news this past week, since you and I have recorded, that the folks over at CW were not too happy with a skit that happened at the most recent NWA pay-per-view, where Dr. James Mitchell was seen suggestively snorting a white powder with a few other folks from his merry band of misfits.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like the unofficial, maybe first ever cocaine spot in the history of wrestling. And I guess ridiculous. The folks at CW were not thrilled with that. Maybe there's a little blowback. I don't know all the details, but Nick,
no pun intended, a little blowback.
There you go.
That's what you did.
Come on now.
You can't help it. You can't help it. You're a wordsmith.
What do you think about this? A cocaine spot in wrestling?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. How
do you justify any facet of it? Any facet of it? It's just stupid. It makes no sense to me. It's taking it too far. Well, it's pro wrestling. I know what it is. I've been doing this for almost 50 years. I get it. But there are certain things, at least in my world, that would not appear on television, and they have to do. I mentioned them earlier. Religion certainly wouldn't be on there. Whatever else I mentioned, I don't. There's things I just don't like. I don't want to sound like Jim Cornette. God damn it, you motherfuckers! But there's things you can't make me like them. And so anyway, we don't. Well, I'll never agree with some of that stuff. And I know that sounds like get out of my yard. But it isn't. It's just it's distracting and it's counterproductive. And we're not doing what brought us to the dance. All great dramas. And wouldn't you say that pro wrestling is a drama? Is pro wrestling a drama, Conrad?
Oh yeah.
So you got to have heroes and villains. If we're on the same page and we agree that pro wrestling is a drama, or is it a action adventure show, whatever you want to call it, it is certainly in need of heroes and villains. Would you not agree?
Yes.
So when you have heroes and villains, you got to treat them as such. And so I'm a big believer that not in this era we're talking about today, 1998. We're starting to veer way off the traditional course.
I had this conversation with Eric Bischoff, and he sort of talked about how he thought it was a bad move, but maybe it's unfair because we see drug use and so many other forms of entertainment, but somehow wrestling is painted with, well, that's for kids and that's too close and you can't do that. And there's all these sort of unwritten rules. So check out 83 Weeks to hear Eric's take on that. But I have taken Eric to task on this, and boy, it's just hard to excuse. One of the biggest pay-per-views of the year for WCW, as we mentioned earlier, Halloween Havoc. Bischoff contended that this was actually their version of WrestleMania, not Starrcade, like I suggested. And they had Goldberg and DDP in the main event. Now, the undercard would feature maybe the most comically bad match in the history of pay-per-view with Hollywood Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. But the main event is what everybody was jazzed to see. Earlier that summer, of course, we saw Goldberg become the world champion. DDP got hotter and hotter and hotter, and he was sort of WCW's version of the People's Champ. And allegedly, they had cleared time on the pay-per-view systems to allow their show to go long. And maybe everybody didn't get the memo, because a whole lot of people who bought this pay-per-view, the show just completely cuts off during the main event. So the only way WCW can make good is to show the match in its entirety the next night on Nitro for free.
Wow.
So many millions of dollars in refunds issued. I mean, this has to be one of the biggest blunders in the history of wrestling pay-per-view. Like, you're so hot, you've got all this money riding on the line, you've got this huge event, and we just go long and don't really communicate that to all the cable systems. This feels almost elementary that you can't miss this.
Yeah. You had one thing to do, right?
Yes.
You had to make sure the show airs. I feel bad for Eric on that deal, because the idea of going along and with that main event is a good one.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. It's a good, well thought out in my view, except we didn't tell everybody. And I'm not blaming Eric for that. I mean, my God, he's got a staff of several people. Somebody just dropped the ball, obviously. And I felt bad for any company, whether it be Eric's company or anybody else that put that much work and effort into their show and then fumble it, because that's what it was. It was a fumble, and you lost possession. A lot of football today. Well
said. The next night, as we said, they show it on Nitro. It gets a 7.18 rating. Goldberg and DDP do. That does a 10.2 share. It airs in 5.3 million homes. That equates to almost 8 million viewers at home, making it at the time the most watched match in cable wrestling history. And it's heads up with a taped episode of Monday Night Raw from Madison, Wisconsin.
Bad timing.
Here we would see Vince chewing out his stooges over what happened the week before, and that Austin had shoved a document in his jacket that the lawyers can battle over. Steve Regal makes his presence known, attacking the European champion X-Pac during his match with Steve Blackman. But this isn't the Steve Regal that we know, like, and trust. This is the real man's man, What the hell were we trying to do with this gimmick?
I have no idea. It was an interesting experiment. I underscore the term experiment. There's nobody in wrestling that I have more respect for than Regal. Nobody. He worked with us for a while at ADW. I thought he contributed greatly. Good guy, company man, a pro wrestling man. So it was just one of those deals where sometimes Vince did push every button he could to make somebody entirely different, where they lose all their pre-existing traits and their habits. And Regal, being a man's man with that English accent and his mannerisms, was not a fit. It was never going to be a fit. But to his credit, to Regal's credit, he did all he could to make it work. It just was never going to work because he had no relationship to that character whatsoever, even though he's a good performer and he's a great pro wrestler. But this just wasn't him. And as we all saw.
We see another debut that night. It's the on-screen debut of Test. He's going to be here as Motley Crue's bodyguard for their performance. That's right. We've got Motley Crue doing a concert here on the show. And that's where we would you see in the background there, the New Age Outlaws, but Test is going to debut as their bodyguard. And before you know it, he's a part of the World Wrestling Federation. We also would see that, Shane McMahon is going to emerge as an on-screen character. It's going to be revealed that the document that was slipped into Vince's jacket by Austin was in fact Austin's new deal that Shane put together. Meltzer would even say Shane did a great job, but Vince was almost able to draw tears, but it didn't seem to go over live with the crowd. But yeah, what'd you think, man? We're introducing a lot of new characters here. Shane as a television character. What'd you think?
I applaud new.
Yes.
I've said that many times on the show. Sometimes new isn't good. Sometimes new is exactly what you need. And I was encouraged by the potential of what we could do with Shane, quite frankly, going forward. So it was a new TV character with an established name that you didn't know was going to work or not. Now that it's over and it's years and years since, we could make a judgment. At times, Shane was extremely entertaining, and but maybe he got pushed along too fast, too soon. I don't know. That might be an argument. But getting a new character is never really a bad thing. You just have to wait and see if that new character is going to get over.
There's some of the new characters that we haven't talked about that are a part of this program. We see Kai and Ty defeat Golga, Kurgan, Violent J, and Shaggy Two Dope. Yeah, the Insane Clown Posse is here in the World Wrestling Federation. What was your experience working with ICP like?
Well, they had their space and I had mine, and I didn't get that much. I spoke to them and they were friendly, but I didn't have really a relationship with them. I didn't even know they could work. I didn't know they could wrestle until they were booked. So, in any event, I was. Got a text that distracted me. But they were fine. I don't know. The agents may have a different story. I don't know that, but they were good as far as I'm concerned, Conrad. They were wrestling fans who were rap artists. Is that what they were? Rap?
Yes.
Okay. So anyhow, but they were fine to work with. There were no issues. They were just like indie wrestlers. They came in, they got a break, they got a chance to be on television before a big audience. How are you going to do? How are you going to move forward with that assignment? And I thought they moved forward okay. I don't remember any huge blotches. There may have been some. How could it not be? But nonetheless, I thought they were fine. I didn't like that. Would I have booked it? Probably not. But what they did, I thought they fulfilled what they were asked to do.
We should talk about Al Snow with Head and Mankind with Sacco. Yeah. Their story begins because they're going to start teaming up to take on the New Age Outlaws for the tag team titles. They can't decide on whether to use Head or Sacco, and it leads to Road Dogg rolling up Al Snow for the win. You saw the darker, maniacal madman, Cactus Jack, in WCW and in ECW and in Japan. And now you've seen this much darker Mankind character. It's evolved to where we got Dude Love. And now this feels a little bit more like Mick Foley.
Right.
It's a little more lighthearted, a little more fun, but the Sacco piece, clearly it was over like Rover, but as a guy who was dyed in the wool as an advocate for Cactus Jack, what did you think of Sacco?
I thought it added a positive element. I thought it was different. It fit Mick's gimmick, if you can use that term. Why not? And it worked. That's the thing about it. It worked. Sacco got over. I don't know the numbers behind how many socks were sold and its height, but it was a bunch of them. And so when somebody's going to pay money at the concession stand to buy a sock, then I think we can safely say that the sock got over. And that's the key. Did it get over? And I would suggest to you, yes, it absolutely got over.
Someone else who got over in this era is Ken Shamrock. The main event of this Monday Night Raw will be Austin and Shamrock. You would think that would have headlined a pay-per-view. It did not, but it did headline a Raw. Austin is going to get the win. He hit Ken Shamrock with a chair and then was tapping Shamrock's hand on the mat for the ref to see and call for the bell. It does feel like the one that got away for me, but thankfully Jerry Lawler doesn't let this Monday Night Raw get away without getting a little dig. There's an ad promoting Survivor Series. And when it finishes, JR says, or Jerry Lawler says into the mic, what a great line. And you'll see the Survivor Series in its entirety. Just a little dig about Halloween Havoc. Dory Funk's training camp has got a ton of talent in it. The next one has Dr. Death Steve Williams. He's trying to get back in shape after the Brawl for All injury. We got Steven Regal in there, Sean Stasiak, Giant Silva, Glenn Kolka, Teddy Hart, Devin Storm. We would know him as Crowbar later on. Test Christopher Daniels, and a man that the company just sent out a press release announcing the signing of, Mr. Kurt Angle. What a collection of talent here.
Thank
Christopher
you.
Daniels, man, that's a guy we're all familiar with in AEW these days.
Yeah.
We know Devin Storm would wind up signing with WCW and become Crowbar. We know Sean Stasiak would make the roster here and bounce over to WCW as well. Teddy Hart, though, we haven't spent a lot of time talking about Teddy. Why don't you think Teddy, had more success with the WWF?
Well, the same reason he didn't have success anywhere. He wasn't reliable. And if he's not reliable, then how do you use him? Did he have abilities? Absolutely. He was a natural in a lot of ways, but he wasn't reliable. And that's a sad statement to make, but it's just true. I wish I could say something different.
Well, let's talk about Jesse the Body Ventura. He shocked the world on November 3rd. He won his quest to become the governor of Minnesota. I know a lot of people in politics and in wrestling were surprised by this. Were you surprised? And what do you remember, if any, Vince's reaction being to this?
I don't know about Vince's reaction. I think a lot of us were pleasantly surprised and happy for Jesse. He was a born politician, and apparently his state felt the same way. So happy for him. It was a big goal for a pro wrestler to be able to be put into a situation where he could be elected as the number one public official in a state, in one of our states. I thought was pretty cool. So happy for him in that regard. And I never always got along with Jesse. We get along fine now, but we didn't get along as perfectly as we should have. And that was my fault. I've talked about that. Happy to talk about it again someday, but nonetheless, I think the business in general was happy that Jesse found success. And that's kind of like watching wrestling today. When a show gets a bad rating, it's damned, no matter what, no matter how hard the guys work, no matter how tough their injuries may be, they're working through things. It's just the nature of the beast. People had rather complain than not. And so the first thing you hear guys say, especially old time wrestlers, well, he doesn't know anything about being a governor. He doesn't know anything about this. He won't be able to do that. Negative, negative, negative. And I never looked at it that way. I wasn't a Minnesotan. I didn't have any stake, no dog in the hunt, as they say. So, I was happy for his success. Why not? Why not be happy for one of your peers' success? To me, that's healthy.
I would totally agree. Maybe not so healthy as seeing a pissed off Vince McMahon running around backstage, yelling at everyone, including Shaquille O'Neal, being in the locker room, watching the show with the boys. He's so good at this. This is just a natural heel. Would also see Boss Man choke Michael Cole with a nightstick, Vince yelling at Jim Cornette for wearing out-of-date fashions and favoring Southern wrestling. That feels like a Vince Russo idea.
Yeah.
And then we also see a tease of the breakup of LOD, Animal and Hawk, when Hawk shows up stoned and Droz beats him up. Speaking of uncomfortable as that was, there's an uncomfortable match with Regal and Goldust. Regal's having an off night here, to the point where Meltzer even writes in the Observer, he shouldn't have been in the ring. Meanwhile, Terry Runnels is going to show up dressed as Marlena and announce that she's pregnant and wants to get back with Dustin now that Val Venus has dumped her. But maybe the most memorable thing on this show is by the end of the night, Vince McMahon is a softie and he hands Mankind a broken old WWF world title belt with a piece of duct tape on it that says hardcore. He hands it to Mick and declares him the world hardcore champion. And the segment ends with Vince saying that he lost a son in Shane, but he might've found one in Mankind.
Wow. And
Mick Foley has an all-time great response when he calls Vince Dad. What a great moment this is, man. Foley and Vince were just magic on TV together.
Great timing.
Yes.
Great timing, to say the very least. And when you think about how these bits were constructed, they didn't go through lengthy and multiple rehearsals. They knew the direction, they knew what they wanted, points they wanted to get across, and they did. And they did it in an ad-lib situation. So as a performer, or as someone, as a student of the game, shall we say, to see how these guys pull that stuff off in an ad-lib environment is pretty amazing.
Speaking of amazing, it's amazing that this story never went bigger. There's a report in the Observer. I would almost bet you weren't there, but maybe you heard about it. Let's see what you think. Undertaker a few weeks back had a meeting with the guys about keeping their drug use from being so public because he remembered what it did to the company in the early 90s when basically none of this crew was even around. General speculation is that steroid use has grown to about 35%, although steroids may be, from a short-term standpoint, the least of the real problems. Now, we've heard that Taker was the locker room leader and that he was sort of the godfather of the WWE. And we've heard that he would sometimes have these, wrestler court type circumstances and private talent only meetings. And he's the leader. Do you remember hearing of a meeting like this?
Well, Taker had several meetings. I'm sure that was one issue that was brought up at some point in time, and was needed. I mean, you can't get too many leaders. And Taker, you trusted Taker because you knew he was so to stick only for the betterment of the company. And this is his life.
Right.
This is what he did for a living. This is his legacy. So he was going to make sure as best he could to impart the wisdom and the support to these younger guys. Don't let the big money you're making, encourage you to make bad mistakes and bad decisions. And so that's all that was. We were lucky to have a guy like The Undertaker who was actually willing to invest his time in meetings such as this.
Davey Boy Smith allegedly is already unhappy in WCW. Of course, he went after the Montreal screw job in November of the prior year. A year later, he's not thrilled with WCW. And the rumor is that he even attempted to reach out to Vince about coming back to the WWF. We know ultimately he would do that, but it would be 99. What do you remember about Davey Boy or someone from his camp reaching back out?
Well, he wanted work. He wanted to leave where he was and he wanted to come back to WWE, as best I recall. And that didn't happen immediately, but it happened. And I think it happened largely because of Vince's relationship with the Hart family. Vince wanted to do what he believed to be the right thing to do by the family and for Davey. And let's not forget, Davey was a good hand.
Yeah.
When Davey was right and he was healthy, he was hard to beat.
There's a ton of mainstream coverage for wrestling, not just because they're hot on Monday night, but now Jesse Ventura winning the governor's race.
Right.
that's even more eyeballs on the product. Raw is going to actually beat Nitro by the widest margin ever. And a lot of this is WCW's poor performance, according to the Observer. He says that Hulk Hogan is, killing the show, and there's lots of piggybacking, or they're attempting to, that, well, if Jesse can be governor, maybe Hogan can be president. So as a little gimmick announcement, Hogan announces that he's running for president. This is a little silly. What do you think of that? I mean, listen, no promotion is bad promotion, or whatever they say there, but president, I don't know about that.
No, it was looking for comedy or a let me up spot type thing. It was so obvious that they were copying what Ventura had legitimately succeeded in doing. It just didn't come off as very professional to me. And I looked at it more just as a bit on television, just as a vignette type thing, and not to be taken seriously.
Well, something else that was getting hard to take seriously is this Kane and Undertaker feud. Xbox is going to be taking on the Undertaker. Kane is going to interfere and shoot a blowtorch at the Undertaker. So we had guns 2 weeks prior. Now we got blowtorches. We've also got a lot of Blue Blazer on this show, and it's not even Owen in the costume. Owen's going to team up with the Blue Blazer to beat up Steve Blackman. Obviously they're having a lot of fun with, no, I'm not the Blue Blazer. It's super silly, super fun. And the show was really about Mankind getting a makeover. Just 4 months prior to this, he's getting thrown off of a top of a cage, and now he's getting these gigantic reactions for really doing almost nothing. I mean, whether it's playing Twister or these funny segments with Vince, this guy has done it all in just a handful of months here.
Yeah.
And
you got over Conrad.
Yes.
People couldn't get enough of Mick.
Yes.
In any way we wanted to package him, they were willing to try. And because Mick's ability to perform and to connect with the audience, real key term here, Mick able to connect with the TV audience and the live audience, was just remarkable. It was, and very well deserved in my estimation.
Well, I'll tell you what else. Mankind knew back then, if he wanted a makeover, you got to do a little manscaping. And that's what we're here to tell you about here today. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's the most revolutionary ball trimmer the world has ever seen. Gentlemen, our friends over at Manscaped have been working day and night to bring you below the waist grooming experience like no other with their brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. We're talking about a next generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave your mind can imagine. AI is cool, but I think this might be the biggest technological advancement the world has ever seen. Upgrade your grooming game to the Ultra Sphere this year by going to manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with our code Jim Ross. High tech for low places. That's what Manscaped is all about. And every man knows how scary it can be when you're going in for a close shave below the belt. JR told me once it looked like CSI Oklahoma in his bathroom. And that's why we trust Manscaped for all of our sensitive areas. Inside the package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This is a 5th generation trimmer. It has two interchangeable heads. You've got next gen skin safe blade heads too here, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Feels good. We also have dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3 length setting combs. Oh, and did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? No more wet shaving down there. Come on. This bad boy also features dual LED spotlights. You gotta love that. Think about that. Spotlights in your darkest places. Maybe you're taking it on the go. Manscaped has you covered there too. Comes with a travel case and even a travel lock feature to avoid any accidental powering on or off or weird looks at the airport. That right there, boys and girls, is cutting edge for cutting pubes. Upgrade your ball trimmer. Your life will follow. Seriously, before Tony Schiavone had Manscaped, he was just working the drive-thru at Starbucks. He trimmed that ball hair. He put on some of these fantastic products from Manscaped. Bam! Back in wrestling. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Jim Ross at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Jim Ross at manscaped.com. I can promise you've never seen a ball trimmer look like a spaceship. Get yours today from the folks at Manscaped. And by the way, I want to give a quick shout out to everybody who's watching along with us over in the group chat. We had a whole bunch of folks show up with us today. Denovius Mack and Coach Keith and Kelly Cox and Bobby and David. And really appreciate everybody showing up and hanging out with us. Shout out to Eric.
We should charge admission, Conrad.
We do over at adfreeshows.com.
There you go. And how good is that?
Come join us. Let's talk a little bit about the next big spot here. Kane's Wrestling Edge. Kane comes out with a gasoline can and a blowtorch. He's going to start choke slamming folks left and right. Christian, Gangrel, Edge. Then he pours gasoline on all of them. What are we doing?
We're doing Howard Stern comedy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. All I know is that when they put it on the monitor, my job is to call us. Simple as that. Not to try to, why do we do it?
Yes.
You know, what's it going to mean 10 years from now? What's it going to mean, JR, when you and Conrad meet and finally do a podcast together that's
right,
top rated? What's that all mean? I don't know. I don't know what it means. I know where it's obvious where Russo gets his influences, and Howard Stern was one of them. I think there's no argument there. I mean, we use cast members. How could you be any more connected to Howard Stern than using some of his quote unquote stars? So it was a little bit, it was dicey. And so, like I said, what made my job easier, believe it or not, was simply communicating what you're seeing on the screen to the audience and trying to make some sense of it or add some drama to it, whatever it may be. So that was, and it really wasn't that hard. You accentuate what you're seeing to the best of your ability. And that's what I try to do each and every week. And it wasn't easy.
It's an interesting segment, I suppose, to cover guys in gasoline. Kane then goes into the crowd, choke slams a plant that was in the crowd. Not a plant like, a fern, but like a fan. The Rock would then take on Mark Henry in the main event. Yeah. The Rock and Mark Henry in the main event. This is how The Rock earns his spot in the pay-per-view tournament, but boy, the odds are stacked against him. He's jumped in the dressing room ahead of time, and Vince said if The Rock doesn't make it to the ring, he's fired. Rock comes out, gets a giant pop, and gets the win after the nation, and even the big boss man are trying to stop him. And then after the match, Rock pulls Vince out of the wheelchair, gives him a rock bottom and a people's elbow. Man, we have beautifully built that The Rock, who's been this big monster heel, he is now firmly with Vince McMahon in his sights. He's the big baby face. And now Mankind getting the makeover. He's sort of Vince's son. There's a lot of speculation at the time in the Observer. I want to ask you about this, that Steve Austin is growing unhappy with the World Wrestling Federation. Meltzer says at press time, it appears the situation is stable and not all that different from usual, but the biggest problem stemmed from Bill Goldberg getting a role in the upcoming Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Universal Soldier 2, that the producers originally wanted Austin in. They went to the WWF, and according to what WWF officials claim and told Austin, offered $55,000 for the role. The WWF turned down the offer as being too low without ever even consulting Austin. The producers went to WCW and signed Goldberg for the role, with some filming starting this week. Where the problem stemmed is from Austin's agent. He must have brought the movie up, and Austin knew nothing about it in the first place and told Austin that Goldberg was getting $250,000 for the role. Austin complained to McMahon, who gave him the $50,000 figure as opposed to what was offered, and said it was too low. And eventually McMahon put the heat on Jim Bell, who heads licensing, saying he was the one who fielded the offer and turned it down and was blamed for not mentioning it to Austin first. McMahon actually ended up sending Austin a company letter of apology for how it was all handled, and it was pretty well smoothed over. What do you remember about Austin, Universal Soldier, Goldberg, and the company turning it down?
Well, I remember Jim Bell finally getting fired.
Yeah.
He didn't make the cut, as they say. And he should have communicated, obviously, the information. Anytime you're dealing with your top guy, you go the extra mile Would you have done that for Al Snow? No. Would you have done it for Austin? Yes. Whatever communication should have gone Austin's way should have traveled that direction. And if I had been involved in the decision making of this scenario, and I wasn't, I wouldn't have even entertained a $50,000 offer. It's not enough money. I mean, Austin made more money than that at lots of times.
Yes.
At pay-per-views. So that wasn't his mark. That wasn't his price point. So, but Jim Bell made a mistake there, and he wasn't a bad guy. I used to see him around. Sometimes I wondered what he did, but so what? But it was a cluster, and it was all because of a lack of communication. We've talked about that here.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling is not heavy on corporate communication. It never has been. Now, maybe it's getting better. I know it is in AEW. When I need information, I can get it.
Right.
And I do get it. And I have the support and the communication of my owner. And sometimes Vince didn't give the atmosphere, or provide the atmosphere of someone approachable. And he certainly, to some people like Jim Bell, who didn't see him that much, wasn't approachable and intimidating. He's also intimidating. So, it was just one of those scenarios where a lack of communication led to a very negative outcome.
Let's talk about Insane Clown Posse. I guess they quit right after that Raw appearance because, according to them, they were promised a commercial for their new album on Raw. They didn't get it. Does any of that cross your desk as head of talent relations?
No, that was something I would not have been involved in. The commercial time, it just wasn't. So and they left, and I don't know anybody. I don't know that we had any sort of grievances or ceremonies of their departure. I mean, they were just, again, like I said, they're like two indie wrestlers who are getting a break of being on television. And if their break was to get a commercial, and that was what was arranged, and nobody fulfilled that obligation, I can see where they would be upset. But other than that, it was ships passing in the night.
Well, we've got to talk about what you guys are about to start doing, which is booking monster buildings for Monday Night Raw. We saw WCW run some domes in 1997 and certainly a lot more in 98. Maybe most famously the Georgia Dome. But since the WCW's had so much success there at the TWA Dome, the Astro Dome, the Alamo Dome, the Georgia Dome, the WWF's going to follow suit here. And they're inquiring about running some major buildings. I know, as somebody who was here when things were really, really lean and everybody got a pay cut, to now, instead of looking for, 3,000 seat arenas, 5,000 seat arenas for Monday Night Raw, you're looking at domes. This has got to be like the business, as long as you'd been in it by 1998. This is the best business it ever been. No?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was, it seemed to be, and it made the events feel bigger. It made the fans feel like they were seeing something special. So, it was a different approach and challenging, very challenging. It gave everybody on the staff a mandate and a challenge. The local event people, we had to start promoting differently. We had to go back to some old school shoe leather and get talents in the market to help promote these shows and so forth. So it created a unique environment that the proof in the pudding was, if there's not an ass every 18 inches, then you failed.
Well, there were a lot of asses here to see the Survivor Series. Let's just talk about how much the business has grown. And that's all, of course, I shouldn't say all, but in large part on the shoulders of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yep.
Survivor Series 1997, which we all know and remember for the Montreal Screwjob, did 250,000 buys on pay-per-view. It was a strong pay-per-view. This show, a year later, in 1998, the Survivor Series did 478,000 buys. Really an unbelievable, almost doubling the prior year. You just almost never see that in wrestling.
Right.
And the show is not without its critics. The readers of the Wrestling Observer gave it 54.8% thumbs up. But Meltzer would say this: if you watch pro wrestling largely or entirely for storyline or as a soap opera, as the majority of WWF viewers do today, then this was a very good show. If you watch pro wrestling for wrestling, it was a bad show. If you watch for both, your opinion will be somewhere in between. I guess the answer is that everyone watches pro wrestling for entertainment, and at that point, it becomes what entertains you. I think that's a pretty good synopsis of where the company was at the time. And business was a booming here. They're at the Kiel Center in St. Louis. They drew a sellout crowd, 19,322. Meltzer would say it was announced on TV as 21,779, and I have no idea why when the real number is impressive enough. There were 17,966 fans who paid $470,845. And this is the biggest, maybe most impressive part. Another $148,000 in merchandise, which isn't a record attendance for the city, but is a record gate. And of course, the Nitro operation is coming to town for the TWA Dome, and they've sold over 27,000 tickets for that one. So that record's going to be broken just a month later, but still, anytime you can set a record for gate, for attendance, high fives all around.
Yeah. And especially in a city like St. Louis,
yes,
which had such a long tradition of wrestling success. Things just got hot, and we had an attraction that people wanted to see. They couldn't get enough Stone Cold. So we can look at it any way we want to look at it. And you're also on the other side of the coin, seeing the evolution of The Rock, arguably the second biggest star in WWE history. I get a kick out of, I love John Cena. I signed him. I saw him. I found him, and he wrote a real beautiful piece for my book. Business is picking up. So I'm grateful for that for sure. The book has a lot of interesting things in it that I think people are going to be very surprised with. And it's a short read. The chapters are short. In other words, you could take it to the can.
There you go.
And read it as you're doing your business, as Granny would say. So, it was a great time to be in wrestling. Guys are hot. Guys are getting over. Guys saw opportunity. The talent weren't stupid. They knew Austin was kind of brittle. His back and so forth, knees. So we were playing with borrowed time anyway. But while we had him, we wanted to make the most out of Steve's time and his abilities. So, but make no mistake about it, he was the straw that stirred the drink.
Well said. Maybe the pre-show for Heat, maybe not so stir-worthy. We got Bob Holly and Scorpio beating Animal and Draws. But Bob Holly and Scorpio are calling themselves the Job Squad, the JOB Squad.
Yeah, that was a Russo idea.
What did you think of that name?
Oh, I thought it was silly.
Yeah,
it's silly. Too inside. It took us to a smaller audience, in my opinion. But I'm glad those guys had work.
So Val Venus is going to be out next, defeating Tiger Ali Singh, and the acolytes of both Bradshaw and Farouk are going to make their debut before attacking the DOA. Gangrel is going to pin Steve Blackman before the Blue Blazer comes down from the ceiling like Sting. He's having trouble unhooking himself and ends up being hung a few feet above the ground for Blackman to beat up before he's being dragged back up. Listen, I know it's hard to talk about stuff with Owen and this Blue Blazer and suspension acts, but he was such a fun comedy character. I liked this bit about he's going to come down, but then he can't go back up. He's susceptible to Blackman's attack. I know with the benefit of hindsight, boy, we don't like to see anything like this, but at the time I thought it was a damn funny bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything Owen was involved in was
fun.
I look back at fondly.
Yes.
It's emotional to go back. I'm not really a big fan of going back and watching the dropping of the body, the taking it down and all that stuff. It brings back such bad memories for me. But he was such a lovable human and would be loved by everybody. So anytime you see him in that attire, and that presentation, it brings back, how could it bring back anything but negative memories?
Really fun moment to open the show. The actual pay-per-view opens up with Vince doing an interview, building up Mankind's mystery opponent. Remember now, it's a one-night tournament to crown a new champion. And many people are thinking and hoping and believing it's going to be Shawn Michaels because of what happened at last year's Survivor Series. And this big superstar that Vince is building up, who's going to be Mankind's opponent, is Dwayne Gill. Dwayne Gill comes out, Mankind gets the win in 30 seconds, double arm DDT. It's all just a setup, of course. Mankind is the chosen one from Vince McMahon to be the announcer or the new champion. So the fix is in. Next up, we would see Al Snow pin Jeff Jarrett in 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Meltzer did not like this. He gave it a dud rating. Al Snow advances. The head is involved, as you might imagine. Deborah's here, but not too good. Next up, we get Steve Austin and the Big Boss Man. They go 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Boss Man is beating on Austin with the nightstick. There's decent brawling, but way too short to build much and a real weak finish, according to Dave. Boss Man continued to attack him with the stick after the match. And we're going to see a lot of Boss Man on this show. Although, well, we'll talk about that later. Still, we're 3 matches into the tournament. So Al Snow's advanced, Mankind's advanced, Steve Austin has advanced. Now we've got X-Pac going to a double count out with Steve Regal in a match that Meltzer says is so illogical it should have been booked in WCW. He's not a big fan of this. There's some controversy. McMahon's looking mad about the double elimination because this double elimination really effectively gives Austin a bye. He's got Commissioner Slaughter coming out, and he's going to order the match to finish with a 5-minute overtime. And X-Pac selling an injury and just walks away. The bell rings. X-Pac walks all the way to the dressing room. And instead of raising Regal's hand by forfeit because X-Pac quit, it's still both a draw and they're both eliminated. Sounds like a little bit of a waste of time. So Austin has a bye.
Yeah.
And then we've got Ken Shamrock beating Goldust in 5 minutes and 56 seconds. Meltzer would say not much heat, but both worked better with the other than any other match at this point. In the end, Shamrock gets the win with the ankle lock, 1.5 stars. And now The Rock is going to be in there with the Boss Man. They go 3 seconds. Triple H had been advertised from the very beginning, but he's not there. He has a real life injury. So they're doing an injury angle on the pregame show. And the storyline was that Vince sent him a ticket to come. He never responded. And now he'll be fined for no showing, even though he does have a legit knee injury. Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe are going to come out crotch chopping like they were in DX, which was a hoot. And they tell Rock that even though he should have a bye, he doesn't. And they send out the already eliminated Boss Man. He runs in the ring and immediately gets inside cradled at the bell. Listen, they're doing their best to make chicken salad. I know we all probably would have rather seen The Rock and Triple H tear it up, but the idea that we see Briscoe and Patterson doing the DX crotch chop stuff, that's fun.
It was kind of funny. Yeah. Yes. It was entertaining. That was the let me up situation that Vince always looks for. And look, where do we put our comedy in? And he decided to put his comedy in with Patterson and Briscoe, who are they always delivered. For whatever reason, the audience got, those guys got over, and they were good for that let me up scenario.
In match 7, we see Undertaker pin Kane in 7 minutes and 16 seconds. Dave hated it and called it a dud and said the Undertaker desperately needs time off because he's practically immobile. He needs to heal up. This is one of those rare circumstances where the camera misses something and you guys call it after the match. Kane chokeslams a ref. Cameras didn't catch it, but you guys are still reacting to it because, well, you're supposed to. How bad of a spot are you in there when you're sort of trained and brought up, call what's on the monitor.
Yeah.
But when those guys, and they rarely did this, when they missed a shot, you still know what the story is because you see the doggone thing happening. Yeah. You just go with that and you got to call it, right?
Yeah. Even though it's not on your monitor, you still got to document what just occurred because it was germane and pertinent to the storytelling. So, and we're sitting right there. It's not like we're, elevated into another area of the arena. We saw it. We were there. So I don't know. It was hard to, you couldn't ignore it. You couldn't ignore it. And if you let that aspect of the storytelling out, then you're not doing the story in total, and it's just due.
Next up, we've got Mankind. He's going to pin Al Snow, and it's revealed on the split screen that it was McMahon who stole Mr. Sacco, and I guess gave him to the head. This is according to Dave Meltzer. Snow's going to hit the post hard with a chair. Snow is going to hit a super kick on the floor. Mankind comes back with a hot shot like maneuver, dropping Snow on a chair on the floor. Anyway, Mankind saw Mr. Sacco on the head and began attacking the head with brutal punches. Snow hit a clothesline and a power bomb for a near fall, but Mankind comes back with the double arm DDT and the Sacco for the submission. Two real life best of friends here, wrestling on pay-per-view. It was short, but I'm sure it was special to these guys. 3 minutes and 55 seconds. And listen, it is a little silly, head versus Sacco, but when you know it's two real life friends in there, it makes it a little fun.
Makes it a little fun, a little different. And you knew that that these guys cared probably more for this match than anybody on the card could have cared in their match. They're buddies. They've been on the roads together. Mick was getting his big break. Al Snow seemingly was too. And so it was a feel good internally, behind the scenes feel good.
In match number 9, that's right, the 9th match on the pay-per-view, Rock would beat Shamrock in 8 minutes and 28 seconds. Shamrock is looking great here, but ultimately Shamrock kicks out of the people's favorite move, the people's elbow, and fans aren't really digging that. Shamrock's going to call for Bossman to throw him the nightstick. Bossman does, but Rock intercepts it, hits Shamrock with it, and pins him. And Meltzer says the spot couldn't have been executed better, as if Bossman didn't have a good throw or Rock didn't catch it, it would have looked foolish. 2.5 stars. Putting on a great show so far, telling a story, getting our stars out there over and over and over, and now a little let me up. Sable is going to pin Jacqueline to win the WWF's women's title in 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Shane McMahon is the referee. Mark Merrill's at ringside, and he's going to get involved. It's better than most of the matches on the card up to this point, according to Dave. He really enjoyed it. I think a lot of that has to do with Miss Jackie. She's probably criminally underrated more than most. Would you agree with that?
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. There's no way that a normal non-star could have a match the level that Jackie had with Sable without Jackie being an amazingly talented performer. I've always said this about her. She's just, she was a blessing to have on the roster. And she was deeply entrenched in helping get Sable over. And when Sable got over, we all know that meant money, because she sold a lot of product. And so Miss Jackie did her role extremely well, better than anybody I could think of off the top of my head whatsoever. So we were lucky to have her on the roster, and she always did her job.
What a great match it is for match 11. You want to talk about storyline advancement? This is such a beautiful story here. Mankind is going to pin Austin in 10 minutes and 27 seconds. These guys have had so many great matches over the years. This one's heavy on story. We're going to get some stunners, and a referee is going to start to count. And when he does, Vince has this miraculous recovery, jumps up out of the wheelchair and decks the referee, Mike Chioda. Mankind puts the claw on. Austin breaks it up with a low blow, hits another stunner, covers him for the pin, and in slides Shane McMahon as the second ref. He's going to go 1, 2, and then flip Austin off and start laughing. At that point, Briscoe runs in and hits Austin with what Dave Meltzer described as a love tap with a chair. And then Austin laid down for 3 with Shane counting. Dave would say, it's lucky nobody takes this stuff seriously, because after everything Austin has taken and gotten up from, it makes no sense to lay down for such a weak chair shot. They did a getaway car tease as Patterson, Briscoe, and Slaughter got in a limo and fled. Theoretically, with Vince and Shane with them, Austin stole a van and left after them. But as Bruce describes this chair shot, it was the tink heard round the world. I guess there's a lot of pressure on Briscoe, who, as you might imagine, probably didn't throw a lot of chair shots back in his day.
Well, he didn't want to hurt Austin. Jack. That's the key thing. That's the story.
Yes.
That's the story right there, Conrad.
You can't kill the golden goose.
Briscoe he wouldn't want to be the guy that hurt Stone Cold with a chair shot.
No.
And his neck was like, putting toys together, pieces of toys. And you didn't want to affect that. So that's all Briscoe was doing.
Yes.
And you're right. He wasn't an experienced at that point in time. You got to remember during Briscoe's prime in wrestling, chair shots were not normal.
No. And
so you didn't get a lot of practice. He got practice doing arm drags and selling and making comebacks and all that good stuff. And did an amazingly good job with it as well. But you're right. It was a tink. But Bruce hit it right on the head. No pun intended. It was a tink heard around the world. But what else are you going to do? What else could we have done in hindsight? Which people would do a good job in pro wrestling of looking at hindsight. What else could we have done that would have immediately detonated Austin to where he was going to do a 1, 2, 3? I think we make too much of those things, and Austin losing to Mick without the chair shot would have worked for me. I think it would work for anybody. But that's what the decision was done. We got to do the most drastic thing we can do, and using a weapon to beat Austin. And after all Austin had gone through that night and his health, his extreme health conditions, we didn't need to do any more than that. Austin losing was the story.
Yes.
Not how he lost. Austin losing. And secondly, Mick Foley winning was also huge. So anyway, that's kind of where I saw that deal. I don't think we even needed a chair.
We should also mention that Boss Man was MIA for the finish. He was supposed to have been here. He missed his cue. And Mick has talked about how bad this finish was. And it was so bad that it would never air again on TV. You're in an unwinnable position. Yep. There's so many moving parts here. I'm not going to say it's overbooked, but when something like this is booked with several moving parts, if Austin would have said, man, that was such a terrible chair shot, I can't let that be the finish. I got to kick out. How could you possibly communicate what to do now to everyone else? It creates chaos. So you just kind of got to go with it, right?
Well, through the referee has a mic on he's listening. You can communicate with the ref. You could have done that in hindsight, but you and I are talking years and years later.
Yes.
And
everybody's a genius in hindsight. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody can call the right plays in hindsight. And, I don't know that Steve may not have realized how light that chair shot was at the moment. I guarantee if he would have been aware, that finish would not have gone down.
We're going to see The Rock beat The Undertaker by DQ in 8 minutes and 23 seconds. Strangely, Meltzer would say this one had no heat. Paul Bear is going to hit The Rock with a shoe. Rock's going to come back with a Samoan drop. Boss Man is back out. Rock hits a DDT and a low blow. And finally, the big people's elbow spot that people love. Boss Man's going to distract The Rock, allowing Undertaker to sit up. Taker hits Boss Man and then sets up a choke slam on Rock. And at that point, Kane runs in, confronts The Undertaker, and choke slams Rock. That gets the DQ win for Rock, eliminating The Undertaker. And Undertaker's going to hit Earl Hebner for making the call, and he and Kane are going to brawl in the crowd. So now our finals are set. It's Rock and Mankind. What a twisted road to get there. But before we talk about that match, we got the tag titles. The New Age Outlaws are going to retain the WWF tag straps against the Headbangers, Mark Henry and D'Lo. The entire crowd is with the Outlaws ring entrance speech, and you actually see signs in the crowd for it. And Meltzer would say it's actually the highlight of the show.
Wow.
Quote, they really should have the Outlaws do the same 7-minute ring entrance every night and never have them wrestle because nobody cares once the bell rings. So I know that, even Road Dogg would laugh at that today, but I think in hindsight, people sort of gloss over just how over that opening rap that Road Dogg did was. But anytime it
made him a star, Conrad.
It did.
Quite frankly.
Yes.
Made him a star, made him different, separated him from the pack. And that whole soliloquy was made by that Road Dogg made it perfect. It made it a main event level situation. And we're seeing signs of that now, on AEW, where we see that, Billy gets one of the Billy gets one of the bigger pops of the night on the entrance of the Acclaim.
Yes.
He has fit in there very, very well and filled a void that heretofore would have been existent. So, no, I'm with you on that deal. The opening salvo verbally from the New Age Outlaws was phenomenal.
Well, we should talk about how if you want to be phenomenal and be at your best, you should start every day with one delicious scoop of AG1. JR and I do it, and we think you should too. It'll replace your multivitamin, your probiotic, and more in one simple drinkable habit. You see, AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients for whole body health. In fact, it's a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients where they've raised the standards for quality in the supplement category. And I'm asked about this all the time. Yes, my wife does it every single morning, as do I. She tells me she can tell a difference at the gym if she forgets or misses a day. And I can tell a difference in the afternoon. I have that late afternoon crash, not with AG1. So I want to recommend this to you if you're looking for better gut health, or maybe you're looking for that boost of energy. Maybe you want to have some better immune system support, or maybe you just hate taking pills and vitamins and want a supplement that tastes great. Well, this checks all the boxes. You see, you're going to set yourself up for success with 75 different high quality vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients and ingredients. It's everything you need, like a comprehensive foundational nutritional support that offers support for energy and focus and strength and clarity. Think of it as like your all-in-one nutritional insurance. And if you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs with a 1-year supply of free vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/JR. That's drinkag1.com/JR. One more time, drinkag1.com/JR. I think you're going to love it.
And it works too, folks. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel like you're geared up and ready for the day. AG1, simple to do. It's idiot proof. It really is. So if you give it a shot, you'll see in a matter of hours, sometimes, certainly a matter of days, the difference it makes.
Let's also mention that the main event here, man, what a story it was. The Rock and Mankind have been troopers here. A tournament always requires that. Vince and Shane are going to come out. Mankind's going to try a leg drop while Rock is on the English language announce table, but the move misses. Mankind backdrops the Rock over the top. Back in the ring, Rock hits a DDT. JR starts turning it on, trying to make the match into a classic, Dave says. But it seems too hard for a match that was good, but the crowd wasn't reacting like it was a great match. Mankind took a bump off the middle ropes through the Spanish announce table, and Rock was hitting him with pieces of the broken table. Rock hit the people's elbow, but Mankind kicked out. Mankind comes back with a double arm DDT and the Sacco claw, and fans are actually booing Sacco. Rock would break the claw and hit the rock bottom. He then puts on the sharpshooter, and Vince called for the bell. And you've probably seen and heard that scene about 1,000 times over the past 12 months. Shane, Vince, and Rock all hugged. When Mankind complains to Vince, Rock hits him from behind with the belt and gives him the rock bottom. Austin shows up and the McMahons run away, leaving Rock to brawl with him and of course get nailed with a stunner. For good measure, Austin hit Mankind with another stunner. 3.5 stars. One of the more creative finishes in history. Of course, we're all familiar with the evil Mr. McMahon character that I guess was born a year prior at Survivor Series 1997 at the Montreal Screwjob when Bret Hart was in the sharpshooter. So we're going to do that same finish now, but going into this, The Rock's the baby face and Mankind is the pet of Mr. McMahon. And it turns out it was all a swerve. Mr. McMahon put the fix in. The Rock is now the new corporate champion. Mankind doesn't understand it. He's been betrayed. And Austin just wants his title back. This is really, really well done. What'd you think?
Agreed. There's got 3 guys involved. 3 guys all had a dog in the hunt. This show was entirely too long. Had too much content, in my opinion. It's hard. When I look back on it, it must have been some real negotiations in the back because so many of your top stars are seen multiple times, and that's normally the kiss of death. They're prepared to come out once and do their thing and and either win or lose. But these tournaments involving all your top guys is a booking challenge, to say the least, big time. So the show ended, thank God, with a decent ending, and I thought a very creative finish. I didn't go all the way back to Montreal to bring everything forward. I see what you're doing there, and I understand, but I think that finish, to whatever you think, it was a bright spot in the whole damn pay-per-view, because we needed that finish, and we'd given the fans so much. It was crazy.
It was an incredible show, an incredible storyline. Meltzer would say when the show was over, it was obvious, with Rock as heel champion building up to a Steve Austin match at WrestleMania. But with guys like Mankind, Kane, and Triple H and The Undertaker as possible challengers leading up to that point, as a storyline for business, this is going to work, and was very well executed and at least partially unexpected, even if nearly everyone had pegged Rock as the champion coming out of the show. But the lack of talent depth was noticeable. The problem with lengths of the show amplified by the lack of heat for all but the trademark spots, which everyone waits to pop for, but it was still something largely boring as it was going on, with far too much emphasis put on Vince McMahon with a good ending. I liked the show. I mean, maybe I look back with rose colored glasses because I know what the story is and I thought it was well done. I could see how at the time you might have just felt like we were going through the motions, but the big reveal at the end made it all worth it for me. Eric wants to know, did JR think that The Rock was ready to win the world title on this night, or was it too early?
I didn't think it was too early. I didn't really think it was too early. It was a little surprising, and I think wrestling fans like surprises. The finish was a little off-speed pitch, so if I was looking for a fastball, I didn't get it, which I thought was good. So, I thought Rock was ready to win the title, and I think his resume and his track record proves that statement to be true. He was ready, and how he won the title was controversial, but it was entertaining. So that kind of fit him. He's controversial and he's very damn entertaining.
I tell you what's interesting to me to think about is this guy being the Rock, pronoun boy. He debuted at Survivor Series 1996 in Madison Square Garden. And a friend of mine said, there's your blue chipper right there. And just 2 years later, at Survivor Series 1998, he wins the world title 2 years after his debut. That's pretty damn special.
Well, he was pretty damn special.
No doubt.
He still is, as a matter of fact. When I contacted Rock about doing something for my book, this new book, he was more than happy to do it. He's always believed and felt like I contributed in a very positive way to his wrestling career. And so for him to say that is pretty cool. He had a little bit more to say that you can see when you get the book, but he was ready to go. Here's the thing about a guy like him. He's like a wild maverick. You can only keep him happy for so long. And without him tasting what it tastes like to be on top, because he's heard that term his entire life, being a third generation wrestler. So you're only going to keep him happy for so long. You can't keep him out on the farm in a corral. You got to let him run wild a little bit. And that's what we found with Rock. He was more than ready. He looked at it as a personal challenge. He looked at it as something important, as something he coveted. So I think it was the right move.
Super fun show to talk about the crowning moment for The Rock. We know he's going to go on to be one of the biggest stars of all time. And it's fun to think about, Austin had been scratching and clawing for so long to get to the top of that mountain. He wins the world title in March of 98, and it took him just 2 years to get there, but The Rock wins his first world title in November of 98. Such a special time in wrestling. And next week we'll be back talking about 5 years later, Survivor Series 2003. We'll go back in our Wayback Machine 20 years and talk about a buried alive match between The Undertaker and Vince McMahon, which features the last appearance of the American Badass persona, at least for a while. Team Austin taking on Team Bischoff, an ambulance match between Kane and Shane. And how about Goldberg defending the world title against Triple H? We'll talk about all of that next week. In the meantime, if you'd like to have us talk about your product to some guys 25 to 54 years old, Well, buddy, there's no better place to advertise than right here with us at advertisewithjr.com. You hear some of the same sponsors week in, week out for years. Why is that? Well, because it really works. Find out how affordable it can be at advertisewithjr.com. Also love to have your interactions on social. If you've got a question about Survivor Series next week, hit us up right now. It's at JR Grilling on Twitter and Instagram, Grilling JR over on Facebook. Jim is very active on social media. On Instagram, he is at Jim Ross BBQ. On Twitter, he is at JR's BBQ. Find him on Facebook at Jim Ross BBQ. And of course, the easiest, cheapest, best way to support the show is to follow us over on YouTube. That's Grilling JR on youtube.com. If you're looking for some swag, you can check all of that out right now at grillingjrtees.com. That's grillingjrtees.com. But I think every wrestling fan, as we've got the holidays right around the corner, needs to start thinking about stocking stuffers. You can get a bunch of those over at jrsbbq.com. Jim, I'm pretty excited about what you're offering. It feels like every time I go over there, you guys have some sort of special. And I've been telling you for a while, man, you're giving away all these autographed options that you got.
Well, I appreciate everybody looking. It don't cost nothing to look, and we don't close. So it's a pretty easy situation to shop. We're doing our best to keep up with the orders and get you your product. You see, there's a good shot of many of the items that are available. So, let us help you out and fix you up here with that jrsbbq.com. And if you got any issues, you just let me know.
Check it out. jrsbbq.com. The all-purpose seasoning is my favorite. You got 2 types of sauce. You got the hot sauce. You got main event mustard, Chipotle ketchup, something for everybody, but he's damn near giving away the autographed action figures and cards. Go check it out. jrsbbq.com. Jim, I never know what to expect when we sit down and click record, but I sure did have fun today. I appreciate all the time, and what a fun time it was to talk about Survivor Series 98.
Yeah, it was. And don't forget, folks, I'm going to be off the air for a few weeks. I won't be on Collision, but that doesn't mean you don't watch. Certainly want you to watch the show, and it's getting better and better. A lot of guys are getting opportunity. I'm really interested in seeing where these opportunities that many of the talents are getting for enhanced and improved time-wise television exposure. So, keep following the show on Saturday nights, DVR it, if nothing else, and we'll appreciate your business as we always do. So AEW, TNT, Saturday nights should be great, and we appreciate your loyalty, and I'll be back soon.
We'll see you sooner rather than later right here on Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
Take care of yourself, folks, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today. And hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.